You know where I'd actually like to start because I just did a bunch of reading on this is I would love to chew on our new little NCAA news that we got here at the end of the week.
Oh yeah, that little guy.
Yeah, just the thing that will change the entire landscape of college sports.
Yeah, I do believe it came out. What is today? Today's Sunday. We're recording, so it came out Friday.
Friday was the ruling,
Yeah,
yes.
that the courts ruled that the NCAA schools will be allowed to pay their student athletes. And I think the cap right now is roughly around that 20.5 million mark, and I do believe that's across.
20.5 each school can pay across all of their athletes, which has raised some concerns from basically any college athlete that does not play football or basketball.
Pretty much. I mean, the big money makers inside of the NCAA are those two sports. There
It's
are
college football by kind of a wide margin, March Madness in a pretty strong number 2 position, and everything else pulling up the end.
Yeah, there's some little like women's soccer you can sprinkle in there a little bit. Same thing with gymnastics.
I think
But the
college,
rest,
the Baseball World Series is the number 3 event on the NCAA calendar as far as money making.
yeah, I don't know any. I can't even name who was the top NIL moneymaker for the baseball. They haven't really got too deep into that. I know a few gymnastics people who are making some money off their name, image, and likeness NIL. Most of what I know is basketball and the football people are getting
Of
the
course.
bag.
Now this is, to be clear, money that can be paid in addition to any NIL deals. This will just be income from the schools. And the interesting thing to me that they've phrased it in such a way that they're like, oh, it's a voluntary thing for the schools, as if one school does it, that's not immediately setting the standard for everyone else.
It's voluntary. If it depends how we define voluntary. From a competitive standpoint, you're going to have to pay the players. In general, it's across the board, and also you're going to have to supplement that with finding them NIL as well. So there'll be a nice ish balance where you can spend so much of your money on an athlete and then find them NIL to make up whatever their total income is.
Yes. Now, of course, this has already been a thing. NILs have been around for 4 years, according to all the reading I've been doing. And that's already been a pretty slippery slope in terms of athletes, suing institutions for lost money revenue if they, are not playing or something. What was that thing we covered in Vegas earlier in the year where
Yeah, where the Vegas quarterback decided that he was going to opt out because they were not projected to
so
make a bowl.
yeah, someone had promised him a certain amount of money that he had not seen yet, and he was like, "I'm out, guys."
Yeah, I didn't get paid. I'm good.
But because this is all separate from that, is still like the teams or the schools, and this is all still very strange. And kind of the big piece of this ruling is that it kind of does drop the facade anymore that this has anything to do with giving these kids an education, and this is an entertainment industry we're dealing with here that needs compensation throughout.
Yeah, the crazy thing about this is they're going to even go back and back pay all the athletes, I do believe, from 2016, which
2016 on, over the next decade, we'll be getting a chunks of a $2.8 billion settlement into the lost revenue for those years as well. I don't know how they chose the 2016 cutoff, but considering they've been making this money for decades and decades, but some is better than none, I guess.
yeah, I don't know. It's going to be a whole new landscape. They're not. I don't know. It's not like they're not professional athletes because they're not quite making professional athlete money, but they're
Well,
not.
making any money now makes them
Yeah,
professional is the other argument, because that's a whole nother wrinkle that the NCAA will have to figure out with the Olympic Committee. Is that a lot of the non-fancy Olympic sports that cross over with college athletics are now also going to have to deal with? Are we Olympic qualified anymore? Since now we're professional, like not all the sports allow professional athletes in.
yeah. That is a good question. Yeah, I don't. That's I don't know.
It's a big unknown, and then the timeline of it all is also a little insane. Payments for the 25-26 school year will start July 1st. That's less than a month away. So they really came down basically as close to the wire here as they could with making their decision on this ruling in terms of this current school year. And obviously 20.5 that they have to do this divvy up between all of the potential student athletes at a school, most projections say about 75 to 85% of that will be going to football.
I mean, that's where all the money is. So yeah, you go on and try to build as good of a football program as you possibly can. I know schools like CSU posted and how they're very excited in this because there's potential there that you could draw in some bigger names, but I don't know. It feels
the victims in all of this are the bubble kids, the walk-ons, and the non like scholarship roster spots, which are now basic. So it's like a double-edged sword because what they've essentially done in this settlement is said you have the option to pay all of your rostered athletes, and I guess part of that can be scholarship, because now all roster spots will also get scholarships, but there will be fewer roster spots altogether.
fewer roster spots altogether for sure. So this changes the landscape of how we think about NCAA sports as a whole, right? Because one, we're already seeing this right now with NILs. You're having a lot more people who are transferring out and into places. They're staying in college longer. Like you said, the victims of this are the people who are walking on, the people who you don't really see or know or get the chance. It's a lot of people who's kind of
If you're not a top high school recruit athlete now, it's kind of like your chance at college athletics kind of just got closed out from you potentially.
yeah. I mean, there's always potential that you can go to another school, like a small school where this is not allowed and build your way up. But also, it's tough to do that because, like I said, the athletes are staying around longer. You have a lot more athletes staying around for that second or third or fourth year, fifth, some sixth.
And these are other issues that I think everyone involved in NCAA, like the competitive committees or whatever, who are involved in these lawsuits, also mentioned in a lot of the reading I did. That those are the next knots to kind of untangle. Is how is it fair if a football player can play for like 6 years or something, essentially 6 calendar years, and yeah, the whole roster spot thing. There are still a lot of patches to put on this big giant ship of the college sports.
Like really, it doesn't matter for your sport, like you said, unless you are football, who is going to get a big chunk, and then basketball, who's going to get the other large sum. Some schools will divvy that out to whatever. Like I can imagine some women's soccer playing pieces in that if you have a very good organization. Lacrosse, maybe just a little bit, just to get just a little chunk of the money.
Well, I think the fear from the small, and there's a couple of articles I read on this who were actually like talking to, so like some like track and field athletes who are like, we'd rather have some protections knowing that our student athlete experience isn't going to diminish thanks to this, because now the school is going to be paying the football players. We might get cut a check for $3,000 and then told, oh, but you have to pay for your own meals and, get all your own equipment because the athletic room is not stocked or whatever. If you're on the, you know, cross country team now, who definitely isn't earning any big money for your school.
Yeah, that's a fair thing to think about. I don't know the idea of like college athletics and how schools make money is so we don't. I feel like it's a very black box for most of us
It's
who
very
are
labyrinthian. There's so many layers of administration and committees and committees of committees and like the notion of the NCAA as an organized business entity it's like it's one desk of chair people trying to organize a dozen different cats who all think that they're the biggest cat around and should have the most say in the process.
yeah, and what the NCAA's interest does not always align with all the student athletes and even maybe the student athletes as a whole, right? Because the NCAA at the end is a business and they are in there to make money. So I think that they've been trying to avoid this because now you have to pay out more money than you get to keep, and no one really likes to do that in the business world.
If anything, yeah, I've seen this as an attempt by the schools to try and get a hold on limiting the scary growth of NIL money already in its first 4 years, and being like, if we're paying them directly from the school, we can kind of organize as schools and say, here's what the cap is going to be, so we're not
Yeah,
getting blown out of the water
you
here.
still don't have a hold of what the NIL is, right? Because I can
Yeah.
come and pay you for your name, image, and likeness, however much money I want from my business as I can get. So if Amazon comes along and says, I will pay you hundreds of millions of dollars to go, you want to come play for Amazon U or wherever that may be, the schools can't have a stop to that because that's all included in what the athlete's allowed to do now.
Yes. So I think that's sort of the takeaway of this, is that we are in a very uncharted territory with a lot more questions to sort out that will definitely take some more legal wrangling to do so, because there's even a whole new thing of the other thing the colleges are trying to do is organize in a way where they they're trying to get everyone on board with going by the same rules of how much you're allowed to pay students, like on an individual level, because state by state it has already gone to like state legislatures, where Tennessee is apparently the number one sort of applier of this strategy, where they have gotten their state to basically make it so they can pay students unlimited amount of money.
Yeah.
And other states have already put caps on it, and so they're like, guys, we can't be working off different rules here.
Yeah.
And so yes, I think grand takeaway of this is what they want is some sort of federal regulation that they can apply across the board to everyone in every state, to all schools, and be like, hey, we're all playing at least by some base core rule book that we can all agree on before we start finding our weird shortcuts and cut arounds. But now we're walking into a territory of there are going to be a lot of people finding shortcuts and workarounds and loopholes and
It's almost like
squeezing the juice out of everything they can.
You mean exactly like they've been doing for God knows how much time now.
Yeah, kind of, but at least the athletes are seeing some of it.
They're gonna be seeing a lot more of it now versus the none to little that they got to see before.
Indeed.